hundreds of times a day and hundreds of times a week, employees are saying, how do I? And when they don't have easy access to that information, it is frustrating. But who's on the other side of that equation that's getting all of those questions? Your most tenured and productive employees are becoming unproductive because they're elevating those that don't have the information. So the ability because most organizations, what do they have? SOPs, policies, procedures, handbooks, product catalogs. All of this information exists, and it's probably sitting in a knowledge base somewhere with cobwebs all over it in various levels of disrepair that, to your point, AI can consume and put that kind of information, not only of documented content like a handbook, but what you referenced in your example, AI's ability to consume dynamic content like a meeting, an email thread, a Slack channel. That is all information that can be interrogated through an AI model to be able to provide information at, again, machine speed to employees to drive productivity.
Welcome to the Contact Center Gurus, the podcast for contact center and customer experience leaders. Learn best practices, new technology, tips and tricks, and more. Listen in.
Hello, everyone. This is Darren Prine, and welcome to the Contact Center Gurus podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode. And joining me is Symbolik and Brad Garner with Krista. Krista is a next generation or even disruptive AI solution, AI orchestration. How would you guys welcome, gentlemen, by the way? Great to have you on. Super excited to talk about AI, the future of AI, what AI can do now that people just aren't aware of. They never thought AI right now is capable. A lot of times people are thinking all these things that they wish AI could do. Well, that's going to be in the future sometime. They don't know that it's now, right? So we're going to cover that. But starting off, I just described Krista, but maybe you could just, for anyone interested, what's your like elevator pitch on what Krista is?
Aaron, I'll defer to you and I'll kind of follow up on it.
Yeah, so Krista is really an agentic platform. So it's enterprise-wide for businesses. We mainly work with mid-size, upper mid-size to enterprise businesses. And when I say enterprise-wide, we're an agent builder. There's a lot of sophisticated technology, 15 plus types of AI that we use. Everything's proprietary to Krista, so we built it ourselves. And that allows us to do a lot of use cases. And you'll hear that term, master of all, jack of none, or that's just not the case here. A lot of times we find that the things that Krista can do are table stakes. So we can be 60, 70, potentially 80% of all the AI company potentially will ever need. And there's of course those bespoke type of AI models that they might need outside of Krista that we can also invoke Krista to communicate with those other AIs. So again, we're an agentic platform rather than companies going out and making the mistake of buying AI the way they bought software. We have 70, 80 different agents running around our company, which we don't want to happen. So
awesome. Perfect. Awesome. Well, I've got some what I think are pretty good questions to get us started here. And again, our goal hopefully is to get people to understand what AI is capable of now that they might not be aware of. So my first question is, everyone's heard about AI by now, but may not be aware of all that it can do, all that it's capable of right now. Can you share with us the business processes you see AI solving for in 2025?
Sure.
I think that.
Yeah, sure. And I think it really kind of builds off what Aaron was describing as Krista as a whole. And I think one of the important recognitions we've made, Darren, is still, even though we've made a lot of advancements in the last couple of years with AI, so many people still, when they think AI, think ChatGPT, they think Gemini, they think Claude, they think generative AI. And certainly that is an element of tools that can be used within an enterprise. It really is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think when we think about business processes, this goes squarely to what Aaron was discussing about having the need or the importance of looking at the enterprise as a whole. Because when you think about virtually every department of a company or every business unit and ask yourself, is this business unit or department going to be impacted by AI? The answer is absolutely. And because of that, we believe that a strategy that an organization needs to take should have at least an element, if not primary, an element of their strategy needs to be enterprise wide. Because when you look at business process impact, it affects every department of an organization. Because when you look at things like process bottlenecks, bottlenecks generally are a combination of 4 or 5 things. One is knowledge gaps, right? How many times does a new hired employee say the phrase, how do I, and then finish that sentence, right? There are always knowledge gaps within organizations, which is a bottleneck. Then you get into decisions, right? We all make really important decisions in business, but we also make hundreds of decisions a day that are not really that consequential. It's basically just pattern recognition, but decisions become a bottleneck. Then you get into forms and documents. Think about things like PDFs, invoices, purchase orders, contracts, RFPs, legal documents, things that cause humans time to discern, understand, extract information, and probably redundantly key into another system. And then people are bottlenecks in processes because you have many steps of a process. So when you start looking at all of those different elements of bottlenecks that impact businesses, there are elements of AI today that can affect any number of those, if not all of them, which are well beyond just asking ChatGPT a question like, am I eligible for paternity leave, right? This is something that when you look at virtually every department of a business, they have bottlenecks that fit those categories of knowledge challenges, document challenges, decision challenges, and then people challenges. And when you really start to dive into each and every one of those, you start to realize that there's many areas within a business that AI can have a tremendous impact already. I don't know if you
Darren,
add to that at all, Aaron.
I just want to add some philosophical humor to this. Like,
Sure.
if we could all think back to when we were 10 years old and somebody would ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was like a police officer, a doctor, like all the common things, a fireman. Nobody said, I want to be a data entry person. I want to use a mouse, point and click, and spend half my day doing this. I saw a really cool post the other day on LinkedIn, and this woman was invoicing her own CFO for all this work that had nothing to do with her job at $200 an hour. And they ended up taking a bold step and realized they were costing their company $4 million a year just in administrative work. So the point is like the jobs that AI is taking are the things that people don't want to do anyways. So people are so afraid we're actually going to displace people to actually be more creative and be more purposeful about their work. So I don't think people should be afraid at all. I think they should actually step into this.
That's a great point.
Well done. All right. So I think the best way for people to understand what AI is doing for companies is through case studies. What are some of the most compelling case studies you can share with us?
Aaron, why don't you lead with one and I'll cover one that maybe one of my customers has experienced.
Yep, have large. Okay, so give a couple here. So I have a large alarm company that really, in customer service nowadays, not a lot of people want to do the customer service job. It's a high turnover. Many companies are outsourcing because they don't want to do it here in the United States. And so, frankly, and a lot of people move around, are very transient in their jobs today. Like they're looking for more purpose, whatever that may be. That's hard for a company to scale their customer service. So this particular company had two problems they wanted to solve. A, we want to fight against turnover and make sure that our agents have the knowledge, but we want to give them the confidence. And they didn't want to spend money on doing truck rolls, which is an agent coming out to the house, but they want to be able to have the confidence and the knowledge to be able to answer the question, take care of the problem on the phone, and get on and off that phone and resolution as quick as possible. That particular problem costs them over $1 million in just truck rolls a year. By using Krista, we feed and teach and train the model on all the different knowledge. We use some of our proprietary software on how we use confidence scoring, making sure she's not hallucinating like a ChatGPT could. and then give relevant, accurate answers, more accurate than a human would, because it might take them 20, 30 minutes to go find an answer, or maybe 5, 10 minutes, where Krista's finding that answer in 20 to 30 seconds using deep reasoning, getting to that knowledge and giving those answers. So the use case is much quicker resolution, lower turnover, because you're giving confidence. They actually enjoy having a tool that can make them feel like they're being empowered in their job. So that's one use case. Another one that's kind of unique was a title agency that was manually completing 9 different forms of all this information that was coming through email to complete, like warranty deeds, to get to a closing. You ever hear that, see those ads where we can close a loan in 30 days or less. How long does it really take to close a loan? Probably 6 to 10 hours of actual real human work.
Yeah.
And then there's all those bottlenecks. So what we did for the title agency is that all that information would come in email. Krista would ingest that, complete the forms for them, and now they're commercializing it to other title agencies and charging them for those forms and speeding their process up as well.
Awesome.
That's 2 key ones. Yeah.
Can I
Brad,
offer one, Darren?
Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And I think Aaron kind of touched on kind of how I think of both sides of the equation of value of AI. On one hand, there's a tremendous resurgence of tools around what we call co-pilots, which are, and I'm not referring to Microsoft Copilot, but this idea of being a co-pilot to people, right? An agent assist or a sales assist, an IT help desk, an HR help desk. That is all what we kind of refer to as an AI assist or a co-pilot. The second example he gave is one that I'm excited about with a few of my customers, which is really more of a complete autopilot, right? Where I think one of the advantages of leveraging AI truly is the ability for AI actually to own an end-to-end process. So instead of people bringing in technology as needed in a process, you have AI owning the process and simply including people when needed. And a good example of that, and there's a number of them, would be like within a call center, right? So a classic use case is for AI to actually own the end-to-end process of an inbound inquiry from a customer. For example, customer sends in an email that says, you know what, Darren, I need a copy of my invoice. Right. So instead of people receiving that, reading that, creating a ticket, realizing this is a duplicate bill request, and a human owning that process, you can begin with AI's capability to help with decision making, to actually read and classify that email, create a ticket in the ticketing system, go into the billing system, get a copy of the bill, write an email to the customer, send them the copy of the bill, and close the ticket in the ticketing system. Where end-to-end AI owned that process, and an actual human never actually put their fingerprints on any point of that process from beginning to end. Now, if the AI were to receive an email that they couldn't answer because maybe a request comes in they've never seen before, this is where AI could use what's called human in the loop. Reach out to a member of the team, say, hey, Darren, read this email and help me classify it. And by you helping the AI classify that email, it can actually learn and get smarter. So then the next time that kind of a request comes in, it's more apt to be able to handle that kind of a question. So this idea is there's opportunities when you think of case studies to look at human assistant capabilities that we consider autopilot, but then also the ability to leverage completely autopilot capabilities where AI can own end-to-end processes and drive things at machine speed that you'll never be able to attain just with people.
Mm-hmm. How complex? So you give an example of an email. All right, so that's a good example. But can it do voice? Can it do other types of interactions? Is it only digital?
No, I mean, we really consider that if you're leveraging the right tool set, you can really look at the communication channels being really agnostic. Anywhere from an email, a Teams message, a text message, and even, yes, including voice, right? Because the basis of all of those lines of communication is just natural human language, right? And NLP, which was the backbone of LLMs. So we just see voice as another channel, very similar to asking that very same question via email. So the exact example I gave you, Darren, of a call center where Krista's reading email, that could have been a voice interaction with a customer.
Yeah, in fact, Darren, working with some of your folks, I'm working with one of your folks. Can't name names, obviously, for NDA purposes, but we're working on a voice. Within 3 days, we put together a really nice demonstration of a voice taking inbound calls for proposals. I'm not going to mention what it is, but it's with one of your gurus. And it's really nice because it actually could do orchestration along the process and understand context. So if it needed, if the customer is giving information, it can go into a system and look that information up and then know exactly what it's talking about, or third-party systems where that information may reside. I don't want to give too many details because we're in that process right now, so that wouldn't be fair to one of your gurus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Seems
voice
to me
and
like in theory, though, if you have an AI that's ingested all of the information, has access to the CRM, the ticketing system, maybe a separate knowledge base or knowledge management system, all of these things, it seems like an AI agent could actually outperform a human because there's no time gaps for it to look up information. It has all that information. If it's been trained on all the same things a human has, but humans only retain so much, otherwise they need to access a knowledge base or somewhere to get the answer. It's able to retain all of that information. Its knowledge management allows it to constantly in real time be updated as there's new information. And so it seems like in theory that this could handle tier one calls or emails or chats as good or it seems to me better than a human. And that maybe it even could handle some of the tier two type of stuff that's a little more complicated. I don't see any reason why it couldn't.
No, and you could put up guardrails around that. So, of course,
Hmm.
the pushback you might get from a company is, well, we don't want it doing that, or that's a highly consequential area, and we're afraid that your AI is going to take over and say the wrong thing, or put us in a position where, there's whatever, some legal ramifications to an answer. We actually are very specific. It's not like a ChatGPT again, where it has access to the entire internet. We put those guardrails up. So if there's 10 pieces of information that we only want Krista or a voice agent handling, it's only going to do that. It's not going to go outside of those guardrails. It's going to then loop in a human. And we can even program it to say, hey, that's a great question. I'm going to go ahead and loop one of our live agents on really quick here and help you with the additional information. It would know to do that. So it's a good, seamless user experience all around.
And in that example, it goes to the live agent, and then it's potentially providing AI agent assist. So helping the agent get through the interaction better, faster, um, getting the information they need instantly as
And
well.
AI
So
is and AI is listening to that call for sentiment. So as the live agent's on, now whoever, let's say it's a VP of customer service and it's a large client and they want to get an automation where this is a negative sentiment call, I want that immediately getting routed. You can create orchestrations on the content and the sentiment of that call. So you can take it even a step further, use that in performance evaluations to give people kudos for doing a great job, doing their evaluations, like not just going on subjective information, but using more objective information that the AI is capturing to improve their job as an agent.
it's amazing. So it goes through and basically does conversational analytics. It can
Yep.
trigger different things. It can actually coach the agents. Um, it can do QA automation. So this is pretty comprehensive what we're talking about right now. Awesome. So I've heard people joke that we're still waiting for the Star Trek computer. Everyone remembers Captain Kirk, computer, and he'd ask it whatever question, and it could do things. It could pull up information on any person, on any department, basically he could ask it to do or for anything and it could do it for him. And so we're all waiting for something like that. So if I'm a CEO company, I can say what did my product team talk about in their last product team meeting, and then what were their challenges and what are they going to talk about next week, and what happened in our sales pipeline meeting. And but basically like that Star Trek computer. Are we actually getting close to that kind of a solution?
I'll say,
Go
oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Aaron.
I'm
No,
Brian.
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna let you definitely talk on this, but I want to say if we make the mistake, like I was saying in the beginning, and everyone's buying point solutions, we'll move away from that. And that's what we're saying. And there's even other folks that are even speaking out that AI needs to be the control tower, like the Star Trek Enterprise. If we don't do that, and everyone has, again, 30, 40 different AI agents, how are you going to have that Star Trek experience? And so I'll leave it there
Right.
and let Brad talk on this because I know he wants to talk about that.
Yeah, how can
Well,
you orchestrate if say it's Krista and then there's other AI agents or AI solutions that could make things pretty tricky.
Well, and there's two elements to that orchestration, Darren, and we talk to clients about this all the time, is one challenge is just the existing tech stack, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if those hearing this call, if you think of any organization that you work with, every one of those organizations has a relatively high level of those employees that are overwhelmed with the tech that they already have. I
Hmm.
mean, our founder, who's a lifelong product, architect, he jokes that people don't even want the updates to the systems that they already have,
Yeah.
right? Let alone additional systems. They don't want the UI to change. They don't want a button to move. They don't,
Yeah.
they can't consume more tech. So number one, if AI is deployed properly in this kind of Star Trek environment that you're referring to, we could better maximize tech that we already have by letting AI perform actions and technology easily, faster, and better than even people can. But then the other side of the equation that Aaron's alluded to now twice is this idea that if we approach AI the same way we've done software, you'll end up having another 50 vendors providing you all these independent little solutions that further complicate your tech stack. Because the underlying beauty of Captain Kirk talking to the ship is integration, right? Because the one thing that Krista or any AI solution is not is a magic wand, right? If you have a system, you have an old AS400 green screen, no data in, no data out, there's nothing that any AI is going to do for that. But if you have a good comprehensive strategy with a modern architecture of systems, and can connect to those systems to either gather data and or perform actions, I would say yes, we are much closer to that Star Trek Enterprise world than I think most people realize, which goes back to that idea of we talk all the time about outcomes. Outcomes are not individual tasks. Outcomes are a series of tasks that lead to an outcome. The only way that's possible is being able to integrate and connect to systems, which is a cornerstone of every one of our engagements, right? We always need to know data in, input, throughput, output. Where are we going to go? What systems are we going to touch? And fortunately, most modern systems in most organizations, enterprises today have relatively decent API connectivity, if not database access. But even that third ability for AI to leverage the UI, screen scraping is even getting better as AI is getting smarter. So there's many ways to access these systems, but that is always centerpiece to one of our areas of a discovery and analysis.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I was just kind of thinking to myself, picturing you guys during your workday with access to something like what we've been talking about, asking it questions about anything, any customer, any update, anything, and instantly getting your responses, much like Captain Kirk. And I'm jealous, but Cloud Tech Gurus just pulled the trigger and is a Krista customer now. We're about to onboard,
Yep.
and I think about how I'm going to be able to use it, and I'm so excited because I'll be able to take when I meet, we help companies source technology, contact center solutions. So we'll meet with the client and I'll do a discovery. And then from the transcript, Krista will be able to take that information and create a business requirements document for me. A really good one too, probably better than any vendor's ever seen. I'm going to be able to send that to appropriate vendors to screen them against the client's requirements, and which is going to be awesome. So it's going to provide the BRD. It's going to help me with screening the vendors. And then as I find the ones that are a good match for the client, it's going to be storing all of that in the knowledge base, so that as I'm continue working with the client, and it's going to integrate with my HubSpot. So any notes, anything from any of the meetings, discoveries, that's going into HubSpot. So and then as I continue, working on client opportunities, I can come back to it at any point and ask it, what's going on with this client? What's going on with that one? Which vendors did we screen? Which ones were a match? Did they provide a response to the RFP? And just be able to have all this information, because it's so much time right now going into HubSpot, looking at that, sifting through emails to figure out where we stand on any given opportunity. And you will have our Krista actually integrated with our Gmail too. So, finding anything about anything I'm working on and getting instant answers, it's going to save me hours a day. It's just going to be amazing. I can't wait for it. But I digress. Let me get to my next question. So, what's the one thing most leaders totally miss about AI, about what AI could be doing for their team right now?
Aaron, I'll let you lead.
Yeah, I think that we've been trained, or CEOs, CEOs have, really three things they have to worry about: surviving as a company, cash flow, and profitability, right? And with software for 30 years, we've been trained to kind of wait and see in many instances. Be conservative, let's wait and see. AI is an extinction level event. It is not a wait and see. It's get a first crank of the wheel, start somewhere, think big, start small. But if you wait and see and your competitor doesn't wait and see, you will not catch up. It's not like traditional software where it's a set of features and functions, and we could just wait and see how that works out. And then if it's an ERP system, an HCM system, whatever that is, and then add that with AI, if you do that, it actually creates velocity, and it does this, over time, a given time, and it happens very quickly. So I would just say it's very philosophical. And why is that good for the team? Well, I'm going to go back to my purpose and retention. When you give your employees purpose, you have retention. And that's the worst thing for a company, is turning your employees over, because all that knowledge walks out the door. And we all know, I think you spend anywhere from 100 to, depending on the type of employee and the capability, 100 to $400,000 in the first year, just training and getting that employee up to speed. And then just to lose them,
Yeah.
that's defeating for a CEO. So what they could be doing right now is just getting started.
All right. Well, let me have a second part to that question then. So, what what is the one thing right now that companies aren't aware, but they could be utilizing AI for? And this could be their starting point. Obviously, they could start by, let's see how much of our HR department we can automate, right? Or we can start by recording all of our meetings, conversations, in building out a living, evolving knowledge base that helps everyone in the company with everything they do. Or, what is the one thing people don't know that AI can do right now that they could be using it for, and they probably should be using it for right now? In
I
fact,
think
maybe they're even losing money by not utilizing this right now.
I mean, I think you hit on it, Darren. I mean, I think the tip of the iceberg is knowledge and information. Um, if you Google or go to ChatGPT, why is it widely reported that 83% of AI projects are failing, right? That's a number that I've seen in a number of publications. You'll get a good response. And one of the keys in that response is organizations are choosing too ambitious of a project as the first crank of the wheel, right? It's like somebody's been in business for 30 years and there's this one big business process that's our biggest, most valuable, difficult thing to do. And they decide to think that that's where we need to start AI. And that is probably the absolute worst place that you could start with AI. And you nailed it. Success in AI is hitting a bunch of singles and hitting them very quickly and hitting them rapidly, because the organization is going to transform. And Aaron is right. That hockey stick curve is moving more and more rapidly every day. And one of my favorite quotes, and I think I've shared this with you before, Darren, is that idea that a rising tide lifts all boats. There is no rising tide that lifts all of your employees more so than knowledge and information. And it goes again into Aaron's idea of giving you purpose. Because hundreds of times a day and hundreds of times a week, employees are saying, how do I, how do I, how do I? And when they don't have easy access to that information, it is frustrating. But who's on the other side of that equation that's getting all of those questions? Your most tenured and productive employees are becoming unproductive because they're elevating those that don't have the information. So the ability for, because most organizations, what do they have? SOPs, policies, procedures, handbooks, product catalogs. All of this information exists, and it's probably sitting in a knowledge base somewhere with cobwebs all over it in various levels of disrepair that, to your point, AI can consume and put that kind of information, not only of documented content like a handbook, but what you referenced in your example, AI's ability to consume dynamic content like a meeting, an email thread, a Slack channel. That is all information that can be interrogated through an AI model to be able to provide information at, again, machine speed to employees to drive productivity. So that ability to start the first crank of the wheel around knowledge and information, because then that also leads to orchestration. You start to realize, oh my gosh, we're getting 50 questions a week about how do you open an IT ticket. Well, guess what you should probably automate? Opening an IT ticket. It just is your gateway. Yeah, password reset, whatever it is. So knowledge and information and knowledge and content is a gateway to orchestration.
The one objection, Darren, that I'll bring up, the one objection that the companies will give on the knowledge, which is, think of a assistant, right? Krista is an assistant to every employee in your organization to ask those questions. But what you're going to get is an objection from some leadership is, well, our data is not that good, or our data is bad. So we talk about data governance. AI should be able to help with data governance and build processes. And of course we do that, selfless plug, but to help with data governance and bring in better data and get out data that's attriting, right? And move that out so that we can work from good data, because you'll never, if you use that excuse, you'll never have good data. You will never reach that end goal. We hear that all the time. So use AI to get the good data in so that you can start leveraging the tools that Brad was just describing.
Awesome. Love it. So if a company plugs in AI the right way, what's something they could stop worrying about, or maybe stop spending so much money on?
Aaron?
Data entry, hand keying, taking documents and manually loading information from one system to another, trying to analyze data themselves and try to come to some subjective opinion of why we're doing this better than not, rather than using AI to get that data themselves and make better decisions about how they should operate as a business. So I think, again, I'm going back to the very beginning of our conversation, was they didn't get to this job to start doing data entry, use a mouse point and click and spend hours doing this. Funny enough, I was opening up an account, a business account for my wife. And I was sitting in front of the banker and he said, I said, how long is this going to be? And he said, it'll be about an hour and a half to open a business bank. He goes, because we have to go through all this stuff and I hate this part of my job. There you go. That's it. Like, he goes, I go, what do you love about your job? I love talking to people and learning about what they're doing, this and that. It's like and then he got a smile. He went from a frown to a smile. So let's stop having our people spend so much time in data entry and just manual, like mundane work, and let the computers and the machines do what they're meant to do. That's what I would say.
I agree. I think that's a good starting point as well. Why not, right? And I think that it's probably safe to say that companies that aren't using AI in the ways that you just shared are actually, they're spending more money every month than they would be if they were using AI and enjoying all the benefits that we've discussed. So I imagine, maybe you can give us a range, but I imagine it's a pretty significant ROI or cost savings. And I still think it's a pretty unstable economy. I'm watching my friends get laid off right and left in the contact center industry, and it's not on the news, but I see I see it just rampant right now. People getting laid off. That means to me, well, there's some trouble there economically. Also occurs to me that wow, companies should be more engaged right now in looking for ways to save money so they don't have to lay people off. And I think AI is maybe the best way to do it. But talk to us about some of the kinds of savings or ROIs that your customers are seeing.
I mean, I think you gave some good examples, but I'll use one within a contact center. So it was a relatively small contact center, but to keep up with volume, plus with turnover, they recognized how often there is turnover in the first year of the job. They were poised to need to hire between 6 and 10 new call center agents to support the acquisition of a couple new contacts and support their growth. And we all can probably do the math on what it would cost to hire 6 full-time employees, the
Mhm.
time that it takes to train them, the time to get them productive. And within probably 8 weeks, we rolled out an initial call center solution for Krista to be involved in responding to email, what we call email read and respond. And Krista's solution was less than the cost of one full-time equivalent employee. So do
Wow.
the comparison of less than one FTE compared to hiring 6,
Yeah.
right? And that's really, really common. And that's just one solution. And what's
Mhm.
interesting about that example, and it goes to Aaron's point early on about point solutions, that particular customer was evaluating us and Zendesk, right? Because Zendesk can triage email. The reason they chose Krista was the enterprise focus because they knew they had a need in operations and one in finance. They didn't want to vet 3 vendors, right? They wanted one vendor that could bring a solution and impact in all 3 areas of their business. And I think that was a point you made early on, Darren, is that you're going to find these needs within the contact center all day long. But
Yeah.
there's also needs in operations and finance and sales
Mhm.
and HR and IT. And your ability to expand and have a solution that can impact beyond just one little niche department of a business
Mhm.
is something that every organization needs to consider when they're looking at bringing AI into the enterprise.
Yeah. And I think there's probably some areas where it's hard to just say, well, people are seeing a 300% ROI or whatever like that. When it comes to, for instance, automating a lot of that data entry that we talked about, or we're about to use the Kristen Knowledge Agent in for that type of a solution, having that living, breathing, evolving, real-time knowledge solution that's tied into everything, giving me accurate information about every client, building business requirements documents, and doing all these things, keeping me up to date, from all the meetings and from emails and from the CRM. So I instantly know where every project is, where I stand with every client. I mean, I don't know how you can figure out what that savings is, but I I think it should be obvious to the listeners that when you can automate these things, take hours out of your day, um, that's pretty significant. I mean, it's one of these things where it's kind of a no-brainer. It doesn't really make sense not to be doing it. I mean, to be having everyone do manual data entry, to have everyone wasting so much time looking for some information about something that they're working on, where it could be hours a day that people spend on trying to find information. So the cost savings is huge, but the improved efficiency, I mean, it's just all around makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you agree, being in the industry. So, any last comments or anything else about modern AI, what it's capable of now versus what people might think that it can do? What can you leave us with that might be helpful for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing, and we didn't really touch on this very much, is that if you think about 20 years ago when you wanted to build a website, you would have to
Mhm.
hire a specialist to do that. And now my 12-year-old can build it in minutes, can build a
Uh-huh.
website, like easy. Um, we built a platform that uses the natural language components that generative AI, that we use in generative AI to actually build these orchestrations. This Star Trek experience that we're talking about doesn't need a whole host of data scientists to build it out. we actually built something called the iPath Integration Platform as a Service, which allows us to connect all that existing tech stack we were talking about, but do it in a way that you can use natural language. So you could actually build somebody that understands a business process in their company could use natural language to build the workflow to tell Krista what you want to do. Krista is the data scientist. So a lot of the technology we talk about in AI and agentic platforms exist out there, but it's a matter of time, money, and resources. And we can do it just a lot quicker because again, we use natural language and we built this platform for 6 years. So it's a lot different. So it's almost as we built the website experience where your 12-year-old can go build that in. I'm not saying it's going to be a 12-year-old, but it's going to be somebody that has enterprise knowledge of their company, understands workflows, and can build that with Krista in natural language. And you don't need to have 4 or 5 IT people to help you do it. That's probably a big unlock we really didn't talk about here.
Yeah, don't need all the data scientists and like
Nope.
workflow engineers and
Right.
all of those people that were typically involved. It's crazy. We helped a major hotelier, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, with conversational AI, and back then it took about a year for them to actually be implemented. I mean, there were so many people involved in trying to make this happen. I
And it was
think back
probably
in
pretty
like,
expensive, Darren.
well, yeah, it was like $1 million for the setup fee. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And I think now that, that same hotelier, they could probably have better AI than we were able to help them source back then. And it'd probably be up and running in about 8 to 12 weeks
I
instead of a
would,
year. And for, maybe not $1 million, maybe 10, 20, 30,000, right? So amazing how things have really evolved. Well, this is great. Appreciate you gentlemen joining us on the podcast. You'll see a slide coming up that'll give you information if you want to contact me so that I can share additional information on Krista and get you in touch with these gents, get you a demo set up if you want to really dig in deeper into where you could start to use AI. And I'm happy to help. We are a Krista distributor, and would love to get you in touch with these gentlemen and let you see Krista for yourself. And the information will follow. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome. I learned something new every time we talk, and appreciate your time today.
thank you, Darren. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Darren. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.